Well, I guess Joe Biden won, so that's it. So thanks, everybody.
Game's over.
See you next time.
Game over.
Or not. What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't adhere to that because the Electoral College hasn't voted yet. So until they actually vote in December, no one is the elected president. So we shall see.
But AP declared. I mean, and I think it's in Article 2.
Oh, well, that's just like how Juan Guaido is the president of Venezuela, right? Because
of course.
Because we just decided that that's how it goes. That's how things are decided now. Presidents, that's how they're decided.
You know what gets me is first of all, there's all these stories about, well, AP declared Biden the winner, number one. Like, I mean, AP, right? And
well, they don't actually.
Do you see AP like it as in it's a reputable propaganda rag, or that it's not?
I mean, and then the other thing is that there's like opinion polls saying that how many people think Joe Biden actually won the election, and then they say, well, majority of people, even a majority of Republicans, think that Biden won the election. But since, I mean, isn't the election supposed to be the ultimate opinion poll? Why do we have opinion polls about what the election results were, as if that's kind of more authoritative? I mean, I think it indicates that people have their doubts about the election system in general, that you have to have an opinion poll on this official opinion poll, which is the election.
Yeah, for the most part, I just see articles simply call Biden president-elect. They don't even get into the weeds about anything about that they're just saying that based on AP calling it and so forth. I was chatting with Steve earlier that Daisy, that I was actually surprised that the Boston Globe actually educated their readers a little bit and did actually acknowledge that there's some controversy around it by basically, of course, saying Trump's Hitler or something, but actually saying that, talking about this nonsense where the Republicans are saying that the electors are actually chosen by the state legislatures and that they could actually override the will of the people, all kind of stuff, without saying, of course, saying there's absolutely zero evidence of any, wrongdoing in the election. So that I thought that was kind of interesting that they actually felt the need to educate their readers on that, like they're thinking this is
semi
yeah, like they just want to let them know that there's something going on that those nasty Republicans are up to, and you're probably going to read more things, about it coming down the pike. But so I thought that was fairly interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that I mean, there's obviously both parties are guilty of the same thing or attempting to do the same thing. I mean, the Democrats did gerrymandering in Maryland and other states to their advantage, and they used to do it in Massachusetts as well. And obviously Republicans, were very proactive after the 2010 census in trying to capture state legislatures so they could redraw the districts in their favor. And I mean, but the Democrats are kind of like, they're more jealous than anything. They wish they could have done the same thing.
Well, just as they were right, because there's a census is coming up, and all that is about to happen again, and the Republicans, supposedly Trump would have no coattails, but this really statistical anomaly happened where the president did really bad, but the Republicans did quite well. Again, it's another statistical anomaly that the Dems, statistics is one science the Dems do not want to pay attention to or believe in this year.
Well, okay, because I want to touch upon like two things that you guys said. So one was the thing about how they had to take the poll to see how much people are buying into this. And if that doesn't show that this is propaganda, then I don't understand what else would make you think that this is propaganda. Like, why do you need to poll people to see if the information that you're putting out there is actually seeking into people?
Well, I'll give you another reason. I'll give you a reason. I think it's just because there is general doubt about the integrity of the election process, whether it's questioning the whole process of the Dominion voting machines, whatever, or if it's just questioning the way it was written in the Constitution with the Electoral College and unfair representation based on the population of your state and the number of senators you have or whatever. So I mean, you could make the argument that it's just there's a general uneasiness and lack of confidence.
Right, but the thing is that
process.
if you actually let the process do what it's supposed to do, then people will understand. They may not really true, they may believe that something else is going on or whatever, but you're not going to have a whole, pretty much no one really believes what is going on, which we talked about this beforehand, that that's how it was going to be, that no one on either side was going to believe whoever the results we're going to see. But the problem is the fact that these organizations, these media organizations, have taken it upon themselves to declare that someone is the winner even before all of the results have come in. And even though there is this this controversy, even like the fact that that Trump, he actually did an address, and that they pulled away from him. They actually stopped showing his address because he was telling lies about the election. Dude, that is not okay.
Oh, that's happened like supposedly on broadcasts on like Fox News and stuff like that. Even on Fox News, they've pulled away from people who are talking about.
But the president of the United States is a different story.
Yeah, well,
you don't do that to the president of the United States.
Absolutely true. Yeah, crazy.
That's setting a massive precedent. That's telling you we are only going to let you see what we want you to see, what is okay for our narrative. Anything that pushes away from that, and we've already seen that with all the media censorship that's going on. This is all, connected.
Right. But why do they have to push this propaganda narrative? Obviously, because there's doubts about the system or whatever. But I mean, you still go out there on the street or talk to a friend. Wait, can I finish? Can I finish, Daisy? Can I finish what I'm saying? Okay, if I talk to people that I know, most people are like, the results of the election are unquestionable that Biden won, right? So I don't think, I think if you polled most people, I mean, like they did, I mean, most people think that Biden won. And the thing is that there is a level of doubt there, but it's not a majority. And when you say that most people doubt the results of the election on both sides, I don't agree with that. I think most people think that Biden won the eletion.
Yeah, anecdotally,
I would argue that.
Anecdotally, my friends that aren't obsessed with politics, they just think that Biden won, Trump is being a poor loser, and that's it. If I try to broach any subject like, well, do you realize that it's kind of unprecedented for all these states to stop counting before the counting was completed? And Trump was up in had a lead in all these states. And then miraculously, when they resumed counting at 4 or 5 a.m., immediately Biden, the thing started flipping Biden's way. Do you understand what a statistical anomaly that is, and what an unprecedented method of taking in the nation's votes that is? And they'll just blank.
Well, I mean, the argument is that the mail-in ballots came in after the day of voting, so that's why the mail-in ballots were predominantly Democratic.
No, we should watch. Well,
that's the argument.
Yeah. But the idea is like that they're also. I mean, they're coming in from all different precincts at once, right? So you're not talking about. You're not talking about something where there should be an anomaly of all of a sudden a big swing in one direction or the other, or anything like that, right?
Yeah,
you're not talking about this one precinct suddenly you're counting as far as the mail-in goes. You're talking about they're all coming in at once. I mean, I'm not going to do a great job in this. I mean, Fiorella and Pasta, who combo coach, have paid attention to election integrity for years, did a really good thing about how what happened in the Trump vote count is exactly what happened in the primaries with Bernie. That essentially,
well, I mean, we know
when he was ahead at a certain point, all of a sudden a statistically crazy event started happening on the way the percentages swung the other way. For every 1,000 votes, suddenly now it was 70% Biden instead of the 30%. It just completely swung in the opposite direction.
Right. I mean, but you can't prove that the current election was due to fraud. I mean, but it seems like what you can prove, I think, is a lack of confidence that has increased. Anyways, the lack of confidence has increased over time.
Yeah.
Whether it's, whether it's just a plurality or a majority.
Yeah.
I think that's a plurality at this point. I don't think a majority of people question the process. They don't really think about it. They, if they vote, they go and vote, and that's it, right? But I think there is obviously there is an increased level of skepticism vis-a-vis the election system, and that's why you have to have these polls and whatever to quote unquote prove that people still have confidence in it.
Yeah, well, I just want to finish up by saying that statistics is a science, and climate change is still, it's a range of possibilities percentage wise of what could happen in the future. It's obvious, it's the highest probability are these bad things happening, and that's why the scientists completely agree on it. Well, the statistics in this case are of a very extremely high probability that there's some other factor introduced other than normal legal voting for these numbers to work the way they did.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would just to play the other side. I would say the argument is that that mostly it was from cities because people didn't want to have to wait in long lines, and risk exposure or whatever. So they would do mail-in ballots predominantly from cities, which tend to be predominantly be Democratic, and that also, like some of my family members who are Trump supporters, they were basically said they're going to vote in person because that's what they were told to do. So there is going to be you can make the argument that even though the results seem skewed, that it was because of a predominance of one. That doesn't prove there's no corruption at all. It doesn't prove anything.
I thought I had read that they actually were finding that in states where they were able to count those mail-in ballots early, they were surprised that Republicans were sending in early because they were so motivated to vote, that they actually were voting by mail at a much higher rate and it kind of canceled out that thinking but that I don't know if that was across the board everywhere. Obviously there's different election laws applying in different states.
But maybe we could all agree in that there's less confidence in the system and the results, right? I mean, I would argue that going back to decades, if not centuries in the American system, there's been doubt as a result. I mean, look at the 1960 election where, JFK won West Virginia and Illinois basically due to, Joseph Kennedy, his father, meeting with Frank Sinatra and manipulating the votes in the Chicago precincts under Mayor Daley. And so that it was a very close election, and probably Nixon won in 1960, but people didn't there was no, I mean, there were some people who questioned it, but basically, there wasn't that level of skepticism that there is now.
Yeah. And I can't blame voters for feeling that way, right? Because you've got, like we were saying, Republicans, use the legal method of gerrymandering to make things work for them, which voters would look at that and go, that's crazy. Everything ought to be a big block. You shouldn't be able to wiggle these bizarre districts to make it favor your candidate. And then you've got the Democrats, where most people, even if they don't agree that they fixed the primary in 2020, most people understand something funky happened in 2016 because all those emails came out. So, you watch them fix it. You watch them kick the Greens off the ballot in battleground states. I mean, why should anybody have any belief that they wouldn't go that extra step when they're already calling Trump Hitler? Why wouldn't they think they would go the extra step and cheat? It just seems like where's the moral line being crossed there over cheating your own people in the primaries?
Right. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.